Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. It is the player ratings. Hull City 2, Everton 3 in the FA Cup third round. Everton are through to the next round of the FA Cup. We didn't make it easy for ourselves. Let's be honest, it was a pretty poor performance by Everton tonight. The game management by the manager was all over the place in my opinion. Some of the performances from the defence were absolutely atrocious, and we allowed Hull far too much, time to get into the game, to get back into the game after obviously Everton going 2-1 up, and it was just not a very good game of football in from an Everton point of view. But having said that, we're in the half of the next round. We've gotten through. That's all that matters at the end of the day. I know some fans will still be unhappy with the performance. I know some fans will still be unhappy with Rafa Benitez and, still being the manager and this, that and the other. But at the end of the day, it could have been much, much worse. We could have been sat here now saying Everton have been kicked out of the FA Cup in the third round. Where do we go from here? At least, we're still in the competition. At least we're still in the hat for the next round, which is all that matters at the end of the day. We did make it massively difficult for ourselves, as we always do. To be honest, I don't know why any Evertonian would have expected us to turn up today and comfortably win that game with no problem whatsoever. When do we ever do that? When have we ever turned up, no matter who we're playing, and just won a game of football comfortably? We never ever do. It was always going to be a tough game of football. We were always going to make it difficult for ourselves. Did I think it'd go into extra time? Well, I sort of hoped yesterday that it wouldn't go into extra time, but it did, and ultimately, we weren't very good. We weren't very good. We can sit here all we like and talk about a win and how good it is to win a game of football, and it is ultimately. Listen, when you've won one game since September prior to tonight, and when you've only won one in your last 12, just to get a win in any sense of the imagination is absolutely amazing. We didn't have to go to penalties, which is a massive positive as well. But if we're going to look at it in the cold light today, it wasn't very good. We weren't very good today. We were all over the place and defensively in that opening 20 minutes of the game. We settled down but couldn't, take the chances that we were creating. Couldn't kill the game off, which is a massive, massive problem. Allowed Hull back into the game. Made it a massive task when it could have been, what's the saying? Turned a molehill into a mountain, or a mountain into a molehill, whatever the saying is. Anyway, this is the player ratings. We have just done the instant match reaction live about 20 minutes ago, so if you haven't checked that out, please do so after this stream. But this is the player ratings. We'll jump straight into them then. Asmir Begovic in goal, of course, preferred to Jordan Pickford tonight. I'm not going to lie, when I seen the starting 11, I was a little bit confused as to why Asmir Begovic was starting in goal. I really don't understand the need to rest goalkeepers. I just don't think there is a need to rest goalkeepers, and for me, Everton should have been going with our strongest starting 11 tonight, and Jordan Pickford would have been within that strongest starting 11. Now, granted, we've got a couple of injuries, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Josh Townsend out, so, the manager was always going to have to make changes, but at the end of the day, when I did see the starting 11, I did fear that, with Asmir Begovic being in goal. But I actually thought he was decent today. I'm going to give him a 7.5. Do let us know your thoughts in the live comments, by the way. We're doing this live for the first time. So if you want to let us know what you think on the ratings I'm giving, or what rating you would give individual players, let us know in the live comments, and we'll get into some of them towards the end of the video. But I'm going to give him a 7.5 today. Reason being is that he made a couple of big saves, Asmir Begovic. He made one at 1-0 when we went 1-0 down within the opening 45 seconds. I question whether or not he could have done more for the first goal. It's a ball coming into the box. It's, sort of in and around that 6-yard box. Could he have been maybe a little bit more, dominant? Could he maybe have come for it and punched it away, or tried to catch it and tried to win a foul? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit picky. Maybe I'm being a little bit pedantic. I do think that defensively we were an absolute shambles for that opening goal. I think we were defensively a shambles for both goals, really. But that opening goal for me, I thought was particularly poor from the back line, and maybe Asmir Begovic could have done a little bit more. Maybe he could have been a little bit more demanding. Ultimately, if a ball is dropping into that area in the box, you want your goalkeeper to come out and make a challenge for it. David De Gea does it every single week. He comes out, he makes a challenge, and either he wins the ball or he throws himself on the floor and wins a foul 9 times out of 10. But having said that, he did make a big save. When we were 1-0 down to Deny Eves, I think it was, header, and he tipped it over the bar, and he made an absolutely excellent save in the final couple of minutes of the second half of extra time. You know, Everton had gone 3-2 up with an Andros Townsend goal, and in typical Everton fashion, we were looking to allow Hull to get back into the game because we obviously wanted penalties, because why would we not want penalties? And I think the ball falls to Eves again in the box from a corner, and Asmir Begovic makes a wonderful, wonderful save. I'm not too sure how much he knew about it. To be fair, it did just sort of drop in front of the striker, and it sort of just hit Asmir Begovic, but it is a really, really good save, to be fair to him. So I'm going to give Asmir Begovic a 7.5 out of 10. Vitaly Mykolenko then, Ukrainian left-back making his Everton debut. I'm going to give him a 7 today. Now, some people might think that's being a little bit generous, and some people mightn't agree with that. He didn't start the game well, to be fair. He positionally was a little bit off the ball in the opening sort of 10 or 15 minutes. But to be fair, Everton were absolutely atrocious in that opening 10 or 15 minutes all round. The entire back line was a disgrace. So, you know, for a young lad coming in, first game of football in this country, I know it's not obviously in the Premier League, but coming up against the Hull side that were always going to cause us problems, that had already gone 1-0 up in the opening, you know, minute of the game. Could he done a little bit more for the goal? He does get underneath the ball, which is which isn't great, but to be fair, there was 3 or 4 other Everton defenders that were absolutely atrocious in conceding that first goal. So I wouldn't just put all of the blame on Vitaly. But I think as the game went on, he grew more and more as the game went on. Defensively, he became a lot better as the game went on as well. There was a couple of diagonal balls that Hull were trying to play, certainly in that second half, over to their right-hand side, and he dealt with them really, really well. He saw the danger, he come out, he collected, he didn't collect the ball, he took it down with his chest, and he moved forward. And for the debut, he suffered a little bit of cramp towards the end of the game as well. For the debut, playing, you know, the entirety of the 120 minutes, he has only had, you know, a couple of days training since joining the football club. Hasn't even been here a week. I think the manager's spoken after the game today about him having 15 days off of training just before joining Everton as well. So I think all things considered, he done well today. Started a little bit shaky, and give away a couple of fouls. Got a yellow card in his opening, in his debut, which is always great to see. But I do think he grew into the game more and more as it went on, and I think he was pretty solid as well. So he is getting a 7. Michael Keane's getting a 4 today for me. Again, you know, there was a good... Michael Keane's best moments of this game, shockingly, really, were when he was playing a sort of a box-to-box central defender. And by that, what I mean is there was 2 or 3 times when he drove into the opposition box. He actually had a shot on one of the occasions. Anthony Gordon played a wonderful, wonderful ball into the into the area, and Michael Keane ran onto it and had the shot, and it was saved by the goalkeeper. And that was his best contribution in the entirety of the game. And I think at that point, when defensively he again is putting in a dreadful performance, but actually going forward he looks more of a threat than the striker we had on the pitch. If I was Rafa Benitez, I'd have just had Michael Keane up front, to be honest, and taken Rondon off. But I honestly think he was defensively again poor today. I mean, the opening goal to concede is just a typical Everton goal to concede, isn't it? How many of these balls into the box are we going to concede before something seriously is done? You know, we desperately need a centre-back this January transfer window. I can't even begin to express to you how vital it is for the club to go out and try and bring in a leader at the back. We just simply haven't got a leader at the back, and we can talk all we like about Yerry Mina, and when Yerry Mina's back it'll be all well and good, and Yerry Mina is this and Yerry Mina's that. Yerry Mina's a fantastic centre-back. He's our best centre-back without a shadow of a doubt technically, but he's never fit. He's never fit, and we can't sit here week in, week out and rely on when Yerry Mina's back to fitness, when Yerry Mina comes back, because it's just it's not you know, it's just not feasible. It's not feasible, and Yerry Mina's contract's up in the next 18 months at Everton, and a decision certainly has to be made over the next few months or so as to whether or not the club are going to give him a new contract. And I think at the moment the club would lean towards not giving him a new contract because of his injury problems and because of his, you know, problems staying fit. So for me, I just think we're in desperate need of a centre-back this window. Desperate need. Michael Keane again today. All over the place for the first goal. Second goal, again, nobody decides to, you know, to you know, to get at the player and close him down. Going up the other end of the pitch, he made a couple of driving runs where he looked okay, I suppose, and on the ball he looked relatively okay, but off the ball, positional wise, he just again, he was poor today for me, so he's getting a 4. Ben Godfrey next to him. I'm actually going to give Ben Godfrey a 4 as well, to be fair. Again, I can't really sit here and give the 3 centre-backs, any more than a 4 or 5, to be honest with you, given, how badly, we were defensively. Don't get me wrong, I think going forward, we were relatively decent. We were creating chances. Anthony Gordon, I thought, had a good game. Damari Gray had a good game, and we weren't massively threatened too much in the game by Hull, and that's what surprised me an awful lot. With this one, I was sort of, the more and more the game went on, the more and more I was finding myself thinking, why aren't Hull throwing absolutely everything at these centre-backs? Why aren't Hull lashing every single sort of, ball that they possibly can in the box? As soon as they scored within the opening minute, if I was the Hull manager, I'd have just said, forget playing around, forget trying to pass the ball in and around the box and trying to play it beyond the defenders. Just throw crosses into the box, because this Everton defence simply can't deal with that. And that's true. We can't deal with it. We can't deal with balls into the box. We can't deal with, aerial threats. We can't deal with big, strong centre-forwards. And Hull had a big, strong centre-forward in Eves today up there. And I just don't think they utilised them an awful lot. And as I said, for me, Ben Godfrey joins Michael Keane in getting a 3. I don't think he was particularly good whatsoever defensively. Again, similar to Michael Keane, really. Made a couple of really, really good bursting runs, into the opposition box and into the opposition half of the pitch. But ultimately, he's there to defend. And defensively, I don't think he was brilliant today, so he's getting a 4. Seamus Coleman, who, of course, was playing as the other centre-back. Why, I don't know. But he is getting a 5 today. Marginally better than the other 2, I think. Marginally better than the other 2. Won the ball back a couple of times and showed his experience a couple of times, certainly towards the end of the game as well, when I think it was at its most important. Everton were sort of, we were pushing for the win in an extra time, and when we got that winner, it was clear that Hull needed to come forward. It was clear that Hull needed to go and search for another equaliser, and I think Seamus Coleman at times was just a little bit better than the other 2 were at seeing, the attack from Hull and defending against it. And ultimately stopping any potential danger. Wasn't great as a whole throughout the game. Again, formed part of a defensive 3 that were pretty much abysmal, but certainly towards the end of the game, he done okay, Seamus, and I think he won the ball back a couple of times in dangerous areas, and he showed that experience, so he's getting a 5. John Joe Kenny, playing right wing back. I'm going to give John Joe Kenny a 6.5. Defensively, he wasn't great. He wasn't great defensively, but he was playing as a wing back, I suppose. And when you're playing as a wing back, I think defensively you sort of, you may be allowed a little bit more leeway in decisions that you're making and positional wise, and he didn't do an awful lot defensively wrong, John Joe Kenny, but he just wasn't a massive help defensively when Hull were getting forward. But he did get forward and he did get an assist. He drove into a good area. Anthony Gordon played a really, really good ball into him, and he dinked a fantastic ball into Andre Gomez and put it on a play for Andre Gomez to get onto it and head it into the back of the net. And yes, as I said, defensively he wasn't great. Yes, he wasn't massively involved in the game, but that's 2 assists now in his last 2 games for John Joe Kenny. It was a really good ball into the box, really good ball into a danger area as well. He didn't panic. He didn't look up and think there's nobody there, so I'm not going to play it. He just thought, I'll get my head down and I'll play it into a good area and, gamble on somebody running onto the end of it. And Andre Gomez did end up running onto the end of it, and it was a nice finish. So yeah, I'm going to give John Joe a 6.5. As I said, good assist. Defensively, not great, but he's not great defensively, let's be honest. He isn't great, but at least he had some part to play in ultimately the win. Into the midfield then, Alan. I'm going to give Alan a 7. Some people might be a little bit frustrated with that. Some people might think that Alan deserves more than a 7, but again, it's all opinions. He worked really hard today, Alan. He worked really, really hard. Obviously, it's his birthday. No extra marks for it being your birthday, though. That's not how it works. But he worked really hard, ran around in the midfield, won the ball back on a number of occasions, just made a nuisance of himself. And, you know, in those latter stages of the game, when typically you expect Alan to start to tire, and typically you expect Alan to start to, you know, slow down and be beaten, you know, a little bit more on in the midfield battle, I thought he actually improved. Now, maybe that was down to the fact that Hull, you know, slowed down, and their midfield were noticeably starting to feel that, you know, the aches and pains of playing, you know, 115, 120 minutes of football. But I thought Alan kept up with the play really, really well, considering he was playing the majority of the game in a two-man midfield with Andre Gomez. I don't think they were too badly overrun. Don't get me wrong, we still, I don't think, won that midfield battle in the first half, and we were crying for a 3 in midfield all game, as we have been for the last however many weeks. But I thought he kept himself well. Thought he worked really, really hard, covered pretty much every blade of grass, battled, fought for the ball, won the ball back on a number of occasions as well. And generally, I just thought it was a decent enough performance by Alan. You know, I'm not going to sit here and give him a 10 or a 9 or anything like that, but he worked really, really hard. So I think he gets a 7 for me. Andre Gomez gets a 7.5. Now, again, you might be disappointed that Alan has somehow received a less score than Andre Gomez, but I think his goal is got to give him you know, some form of boost. Really good to see him back on the score sheet, of course. I think that's only his second goal in an Everton shirt. Burst into a really, really good area and gambled on what was a really good ball in by John Joe Kenny. Got his head on the end of it. It was a good head. I actually thought throughout the rest of the game as well, he was relatively okay. You know, maybe could have done a little bit more in terms of creating chances, but he's got that bit of quality, Andre Gomez, and when he shows it, you know, he really, really, you know, helps this Everton side out. And I still think that he might have a role to play in a 3-man midfield next to Decore and Alan. I think in a 2-man midfield with just Alan, they'll get caught out far too often. Even though the pair of them played well today, I think in the Premier League they'll get caught out far too often. But he has got that little bit of quality. He's got that little bit about him, you know, to get on the end of balls, or to play a really, really nice pass, or to be that transition, you know, from defence into attack. And I thought he had a decent enough game today. You know, scored a goal, of course, which is good. So he's getting a 7.5. Demarai Gray then. Demarai Gray's getting an 8. Really, really impressed with Demarai Gray today. Yes, he was a little bit frustrating towards the end of the game. I do think he was absolutely knackered, to be fair. I think he got kicked up and down the park from about the 60th minute onwards. If I was Rafa Benitez, I would have taken Demarai Gray off as opposed to Anthony Gordon. But I'm not Rafa Benitez, and I'm not making awful tactical decisions every single week. But again, his goal was fantastic. Really, really nice 1-2. With Anthony Gordon, of course, to get into that area, and a really, really cool, calm and collected finish as well. He should have had a penalty for what was a blatant handball. Kevin Friend, as we spoke about in the instant match reaction, putting in quite possibly the worst defensive performance you'll see all season. Quite possibly the worst refereeing performance you'll see all year, and we're only still in the first week of January. That's how bad it was. But he worked hard, Demarai Gray today. He worked hard. He got into the right areas. Yes, he was offside a couple of times when he probably should have been. And yes, that's frustrating. And yes, maybe you would have expected him to do a little bit more with some of the opportunities that he did have. But, you know, he scored a really, really good goal. You know, he got into some really, really good areas. His passing was good. His skill was good. The skill for the goal is absolutely amazing. Fantastic touch in behind him to console the ball. And then, as I said, a really, really nice 1-2 and a really, really cool finish. Onto Anthony Gordon then. He is getting an 8.5. Again, massively impressed by Anthony Gordon today. Even in that opening 10 or 15 minutes when we were utterly abysmal, I thought he was the bright spark. I thought he was the player that sort of pardon me. I thought he was the player that took us out of that bad run of you know, minutes, I suppose you would say, bad period in the game. Again, you know, really, really nice involvement for Demarai Gray's goal. Excellent 1-2 play. Very nearly had his own goal a couple of minutes after. That would have made it 3 goals in 2 games for him, of course. Cuts inside on his left foot, takes a shot, and it's unlucky. It's actually a really clever shot. Some people would say maybe he should go for the back post, for the far post, but he actually goes for the goalkeeper's near post, and it's clever. It beats the goalkeeper, but unfortunately, just strikes the the post as well. But as I said, I thought he worked really, really hard today. Quite unlucky, to be honest, and unfortunate to go off when he did, Anthony Gordon. I thought he deserved to stay on the pitch for at least a little bit longer. But, you know, he battled, he worked hard, he fought, he gave us all, he showed exactly what he can do. He won a couple of fouls in really dangerous areas as well. And he is... he's certainly improving more and more as the weeks go on, Anthony Gordon, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. It's absolutely brilliant to see. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. We will get into the live comments very shortly. Solomon Rondon, then. I'm going to give him a 5 today. I'm going to give him a 5. Yeah, listen, he runs around, doesn't he? He works hard, he puts himself about, he makes himself a nuisance, he battles. He did have one chance where he cut inside and he just couldn't quite control the ball to bend his foot round and get a shot off. He shouldn't have stayed on the pitch for as long as he did. Let's be perfectly honest. If we're being honest with ourselves, he should have been taken off, you know, long before he was taken off in extra time. I don't really want to sit here and pick on him because I don't want to do that. He did work hard, he put himself about, he ran around, but for me, I just don't see how Rafa Benitez hasn't looked at that game on 60 minutes when we're dying for that, you know, third goal. We're dying to go out and kill the game off, and he hasn't decided, you know what, I'm going to bring on Lewis Dobbin here and bring some fresh legs on, a bit of fresh pace, give him an opportunity to go and shine against the tiring Hull team that weren't really offering much at this point. But no, instead he left Rondon on, who wasn't really offering anything. So he's getting a 5. On to the substitutes then. We made 4 substitutes, I believe. Now, the beauty of doing the player ratings live is if I miss somebody will let me know in the live comments. But Lewis Dobbin is getting a 6. Come on. Obviously, only with, 15 minutes to go just as the second half of extra time we're starting. But he ran round, he put himself about, he used his trickery, used his quick feet on a couple of occasions to get in behind. The Hull defence wasn't massively involved in the game. To be fair, wasn't massively involved in the second half, but in the second half extra time. But granted, he did only come on with 15 minutes to go, and it would have been very, very difficult for him to have any sort of real involvement in the game at that point. As I said, for me, should have come on much earlier. Should have actually come on, in the second half for me with half an hour to go, to give us something different. But the manager clearly still wants to persist with his friends, doesn't he? But Lewis Dobbin is getting a 6. Jean-Philippe Gbamin is getting a 6 as well. Good to see him come on. Good to see him get some minutes under his belt. He did have one chance to score where it come over the top to him and he blasted it into the stands, didn't he? But look, ultimately, again, he come on. He ran around. He worked hard. He showed that midfield up. He made it a midfield 3, obviously, with Decore coming on as well. I'm battling. I have missed a player. I haven't given Decore rank, so we'll do him next. But Gbamin's getting a 6. Come on, ran around, worked hard. Didn't really have much involvement, but when he did with the ball, he looked okay. Abdoulaye Decore, then I'm gonna give him a 7. I thought he was a little bit more impressive when he come on. Obviously, he was on the pitch for longer, which means he had more time to affect the game. But he did bring that energy in the midfield at a time that was important. Hull were, tied in an awful lot then, and the last thing they would have wanted to see was Abdoulaye Decore coming on and giving them something else to think about. He made a couple of really, really good runs, Decore, really, really good runs. Don't know whether anybody else noticed them or whether it was just me, but he made a couple of fantastic darting runs towards the box and even into the box, and he wasn't found on any occasion. But again, the idea was certainly there, and I thought he done well when he come on, so he's getting a 7. Andros Townsend, then I'm going to give Andros Townsend an 8. Listen, when ultimately is the whole, the reason for Townsend, coming on and I suppose the instruction from the manager to Andros Townsend would have been go on and get us a winning goal, and that's exactly what he did, didn't he? That's exactly what he did. He come on, vintage Andros Townsend, as I said in the instant match reaction. If you were to picture an Andros Townsend goal, it would be that, a rifling effort into the back of the net. Okay, the goalkeeper maybe should have done a bit better, but I don't particularly care because it's a winning goal for Everton. And it was desperately needed. And listen, I've got a lot of pardon me, I've got a lot of respect for Andros Townsend. He suffered a broken foot not so long ago, and he there was a report in the Echo last night saying he was pretty much begging Rafa Benitez to be involved today. He was pretty much begging Rafa Benitez to give him that opportunity, and he got that chance. and he come on and he took it with both hands again. You know, when Andros Townsend is 25, 30 yards out from goal and he's got the ball at his feet with space in between him, you would expect him to shoot in any circumstance, and he's shown again today, as he did against Burnley, that when he does shoot in those circumstances, he can rifle the ball into the back of the net. So really, really nice finish, and as I said, his commitment is something that I've been really, really impressed with. So he's getting an 8. And then finally, Cenk Tosun can get a 6 for me. Can get a 6. He come on, he had a shot which went out for a corner, I suppose, and he made a little bit of a nuisance of himself, but he didn't really do anything else, did he? And to be fair, he wasn't really on long enough to do anything else. And then Rafa Benitez, listen, I don't mean to be negative or to be angry or to sit in and go, we won, but, it's still this, that and the other. But ultimately, Rafa Benitez, for me, again, wasn't massively impressed with him today, wasn't massively impressed with his substitutions, wasn't massively impressed with his game management, wasn't massively impressed with the performance. Yes, we're through. Yes, we're into the next round, we're into the hat. But again, we made it far too difficult for ourselves. So I'm going to give Rafa Benitez a 4 today, because I just think we should have been doing an awful lot better in those circumstances. Let's have a little look at the live comments then before we do finish up. If you are enjoying, as I said, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Go ahead, Cam says DGST is right, my mate. EFCS and says Alan gets a 10 from me. Ran around the pitch for 120 minutes. Fair enough. Begovic gets a 6 for Eugene. Rondon gets a 1 for same old Everton. DGST says Alan dives into fresh air too much. EFC Essence says Cam looks a little bit like John Joe. No, I don't, mate. Passing the ball is our biggest problem going forward, says Jeffrey. EFC Essence gives Begovic an 8. Stephen gives Begovic an 8.5. Philip thinks Alan was man of the match as well. Stephen says Keane needs to be in a 2-man defence. Keane needs to just have somebody next to him who's a leader, who's a a real leader, somebody that can really demand and can help him out, because he just... But then again, Michael Keane should be that player. He's 28 years old now. He's been at the club for 4 or 5 years. Where are we? Keane needs to go to League 2, says EFC Essence. Eugene says 8 for... I don't know. That's right. Mikalenko gets a 6 from EFC Essence. Nicholas says, can Gordon or Gray play as a cam? Hard to drop either of them without well they're playing, but when we get Richie and DCL back too. I'm sure Gordon could probably play within there as well. But again, you're spot on. The both of them have been fantastic recently. Hernandez gives the man of the match to Gordon. Yeah, Gordon is the GOAT, says Tom. Keane gets a 4 from Eugene. Philip says Gordon is a great player. Hopefully he stays and gets better. Joe Philly says, I was thinking him over Rondon. Coleman gets a 4 from Jeffrey. Philip says, no mention of the barrage of missiles on the far side and blatant racist chants. I didn't hear any. I did obviously hear the commentators talk about the missiles, which is weird. I don't know why anybody's throwing anything on the pitch, but there you go. Coleman says, Eugene says Coleman 6. Dunk could function better than the 3, says Jeffrey. Gray man of the match, says Kenneth. Philip says Seamus did okay. He was alright. Whamey says Godfrey playing in a different position again, gets moved around more than... Yeah, Kenny gets a 4 from Eugene. Arsenal for Life says Hull nearly caused an upset. Everton lucky. I don't disagree, mate. I don't disagree. Any comments on Hull, says Harry? Yeah, worked hard, battled, and deserved to go as far as they did. Ref rating bias of 10. Performance -10. Do the ref a rating, says Tom. He's getting a -300. He's disgraceful. ICAM says low. Adam Wimmy says goal man of the match, and Jeff says Hull had similar issues to us in a false position. They should be okay second half of the season. They done well. They done well today. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it up there. Then if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you want to hear what my instant thoughts to the game in general were, then please do check out the instant match reaction. It is live on the channel now. Massive thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. First time we've done the instant match reaction and the player ratings live, so let us know what you think about this, and if you like it, then we'll do it a lot more often in the future. But until tomorrow, Monday, when we do the live game review, massive thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. It means a massive amount to me. Wasn't pretty, wasn't a particularly good performance, but we're in the hat, we're in the next round, and ultimately, that's all that matters, isn't it? Let's be perfectly honest. Adam says, do you think Rafa will get sacked? Not after a win. No, I don't. But anyway, listen, as I said, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't a great performance, but we're in the hat, and that's all that matters. Get in, up the toffees, leave a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.